Behind the welcoming smiles and warm embraces lies a chilling secret. 8 seemingly ordinary housewives, each harboring deadly intentions and poisoned hearts. In this countdown, we uncover terrifying true crime stories of women who silently killed their loved ones. These are America's most notorious poisonous housewives. Case 1. Stacy Castor, Black Widow of Syracuse. Stacy Castor was, on the surface, the picture of suburban normality, a seemingly loving mother, devoted wife, and respected member of her community in Syracuse, New York. Born on July 24, 1967, Stacy grew up in an average American family, with no signs foreshadowing the cold-hearted killer she would become. To neighbors and friends, she appeared gentle, attentive, and deeply committed to her family. But beneath this veneer of domestic bliss was a carefully hidden darkness. Her first marriage to Michael Wallace ended tragically in 2000, when Wallace suddenly fell ill and died. The cause at the time was initially thought to be a heart attack, and Stacy quickly moved on, remarrying in 2003 to David Castor, a successful businessman who provided Stacy financial security. For a while, it appeared that Stacy had found stability once more, yet, behind closed doors, a sinister plan was brewing. On August 20, 2005, Stacy made an alarming call to emergency services. Calm, yet visibly distressed, she reported that her husband, David, had locked himself in their bedroom, refusing to answer her frantic knocks. When authorities broke through the door, they discovered a grim scene. David Castor lay lifeless, a bottle of antifreeze on his bedside table, and a glass half filled with a bright green liquid nearby. The initial conclusion: suicide by antifreeze poisoning. However, detectives soon found inconsistencies. David's fingerprints weren't present on the antifreeze bottle, and it appeared as though evidence had been carefully staged. Alarm bells rang louder when investigators unearthed another shocking detail. Stacy's first husband, Michael Wallace, had exhibited strikingly similar symptoms before his mysterious death. Suspicious, authorities reopened Wallace's case, exhuming his body. Toxicology reports confirmed the worst. Michael Wallace had also died from antifreeze poisoning. Suddenly, investigators faced a chilling reality. Stacy Castor had likely murdered both husbands and was now trying to evade justice. As suspicion intensified around Stacy, her desperation mounted. Rather than confess or surrender, she devised an unimaginable plan. In a calculated, cold-hearted attempt to deflect suspicion, Stacy poisoned her own daughter, 20-year-old Ashley Wallace, using crushed pills hidden in vodka. As Ashley lay unconscious, Stacy planted a forged suicide note beside her, falsely confessing that Ashley herself had murdered her father and stepfather. Stacy hoped investigators would close the case once and for all, believing Ashley guilty, miraculously. Ashley survived, waking up in the hospital to confront the horrific truth: her own mother had tried to kill her and frame her for 2 murders. Stacy Castor's trial commenced in January 2009, captivating the nation with disturbing testimonies and startling evidence. Prosecutors meticulously detailed her ruthless methods and carefully orchestrated plots to obtain life insurance payouts, painting a portrait of a woman devoid of remorse. Throughout the trial, Stacy maintained an unsettling composure, even as her own daughter tearfully described her betrayal and near-death experience. Stacy's demeanor remained detached and eerily calm, but the most chilling moment came when the prosecution presented Stacy with undeniable evidence: the antifreeze, fingerprints, and the fraudulent suicide note. Even then, Castor vehemently maintained her innocence, making one particularly haunting statement during cross-examination that stunned the courtroom: "I did not kill David. I did not kill Michael, and I certainly did not try to kill my own daughter. I would die before I hurt my own child." Jurors stared, visibly disturbed by her unflinching denial, despite overwhelming evidence. On February 5, 2009, Stacy Castor was found guilty of second-degree murder in the death of David Castor and attempted murder of Ashley Wallace, sentenced to a minimum of 51 years in prison without possibility of parole. Prosecutors had also presented compelling evidence implicating her in the death of Michael Wallace. Though charges were not formally pursued, Stacy's dark legacy concluded on June 11, 2016, when she died in her prison cell from natural causes, never admitting her guilt, never offering a single word of remorse. The case left deep scars on all involved. It became infamous for Stacy Castor's disturbingly calm persona, her calculated betrayal of family bonds, and her chilling willingness to sacrifice her own daughter. Today, the Black Widow of Syracuse serves as a haunting reminder of how dangerously deceptive appearances can be, how evil can hide behind even the warmest smiles and closest embraces. Case 2. Judy Buenoano, Florida's Black Widow. From the outside, Judy Buenoano appeared charming and charismatic, effortlessly navigating the social circles of Florida in the 1970s and 80s. Born Judias Welty on April 4, 1943 in Quanah, Texas, she later adopted the name Judy Buenoano, a loose translation of good year in Spanish. But beneath this alluring exterior lay a ruthless predator, meticulously plotting the demise of those closest to her. Judy's turbulent life began amid hardship and instability, marred by poverty and emotional neglect. As she grew older, Judy desired financial security and stability at any cost. This craving soon twisted into greed, laying the sinister foundations for her future crimes. Her first known victim was her husband, James Goodyear, a respected Air Force sergeant. In September 1971, after returning home from Vietnam, Goodyear unexpectedly became severely ill. His condition deteriorated rapidly, presenting symptoms of violent vomiting, intense abdominal pain, and inexplicable internal bleeding. Doctors were baffled, tragically. He succumbed to his mysterious illness and died shortly after. Judy, grief-stricken to outsiders, swiftly claimed $28,000 from his military life insurance and veterans benefits. Yet, James was only the beginning. Motivated by financial greed and emboldened by her first murder, Judy targeted her own son, Michael Buenoano. Michael, once a healthy teenager, soon displayed similar debilitating symptoms: nausea, weakness, and paralysis. Medical professionals were initially unable to determine the cause, attributing his worsening condition to a rare disease. Eventually, Michael became wheelchair-bound and entirely dependent on his mother, Judy. However, saw only an opportunity. In May 1980, on a serene Florida river, Judy took Michael canoeing, an activity seemingly innocent and therapeutic. Moments later, Michael mysteriously plunged into the water, incapacitated by paralysis. He drowned within minutes. Judy tearfully recounted to investigators that the canoe had capsized accidentally. Detectives, lacking evidence of foul play, reluctantly accepted her version. Judy once again profited substantially from her son's death through life insurance policies. Not yet satisfied, Judy entered a romantic relationship with Bobby Joe Morris, a wealthy businessman from Colorado. By 1978, Morris too experienced sudden and mysterious health problems similar to Judy's previous victims: vomiting, convulsions, severe abdominal pains, and ultimately death, as before. Judy collected significant insurance proceeds. Authorities finally became suspicious in 1983 after Judy's fiancé, John Gentry, survived a car bombing attempt. Gentry, severely injured but alive, told detectives Judy had given him mysterious vitamin capsules shortly before the attack. Subsequent analysis revealed shocking findings. The capsules contained lethal doses of arsenic. Investigators quickly exhumed the bodies of Judy's former husband, James Goodyear, and boyfriend, Bobby Joe Morris. The results confirmed what investigators feared most: arsenic poisoning. Suddenly, Judy Buenoano's carefully constructed image unraveled dramatically. Behind the facade of grief-stricken widow and devoted mother was a calculated killer who systematically poisoned her loved ones for monetary gain. In 1984, Judy Buenoano stood trial, her past crimes laid bare before a stunned courtroom. Prosecutors meticulously detailed her meticulous methods, presenting compelling forensic evidence proving repeated arsenic poisoning. Judy sat composed, showing little emotion as the prosecution described her calculated murders. The trial reached its chilling apex during testimony regarding her own son's tragic drowning. Jurors listened with disbelief as investigators detailed how Judy callously pushed Michael weak and defenseless into the river, calmly watching him drown. When asked directly by prosecutors if she felt remorse, Judy coldly responded, "I would never harm those I loved. They died tragically, but not by my hand." Jurors found her words hauntingly unconvincing. In November 1985, Judy Buenoano was found guilty of first-degree murder in James Goodyear's death and attempted murder of John Gentry. She received a death sentence, sealing her fate as one of Florida's most notorious female killers. On March 30th, 1998, Judy Buenoano, dubbed Florida's Black Widow by media, became the first woman executed in Florida's electric chair since the 1800s. She entered the death chamber expressionless, composed to the very end, offering no apologies or remorse. Her final chilling words were starkly simple, yet coldly defiant. "No, sir," she whispered calmly when asked if she had any final statements. Her execution marked the grim conclusion of a ruthless series of poisonings and murders, driven purely by greed and devoid of any empathy. Today, Judy Buenoano's crimes remain etched in America's criminal history, a chilling reminder of how hidden evil can lurk behind even the most charming smiles and seemingly normal lives. Case 3. Nanny Doss, Giggling Granny. At first glance, Nanny Doss appeared to be the ideal grandmother, sweet-faced, amiable, and constantly wearing a warm smile. Born Nancy Hazel on November 4th, 1905, in Blue Mountain, Alabama, Nanny lived a challenging childhood marked by poverty and strict parental control to those who knew her. She seemed to embody kindness and maternal warmth, but behind her friendly giggles hid one of America's most prolific serial poisoners. Nanny's charming facade effectively concealed her sinister motives, driven by a toxic blend of greed, resentment, and dissatisfaction with her life. She pursued happiness through murderous methods, carefully selecting victims among her family members and spouses. To Nanny, murder became a cold-blooded pathway toward a twisted version of personal fulfillment and financial gain. Her killing spree began subtly. In the 1920s, Nanny married her first husband, Charlie Braggs. Shortly after, 2 of their 4 young daughters suddenly and mysteriously died, displaying symptoms consistent with poisoning. Heartbroken but unsuspecting, Charlie Braggs left her, later stating he was afraid of her dark and unpredictable moods. He had no idea his suspicion was valid. Undeterred, Nanny remarried repeatedly, with each marriage bringing tragedy and death in its wake. In each case, the unsuspecting men believed they had found the perfect companion, unaware they had married their executioner. Her favored murder weapon was poison, usually arsenic or rat poison hidden carefully within coffee, pies, or her famous homemade stews. The sweet-faced grandmother seamlessly blended deadly toxins into everyday meals, turning warm family dinners into scenes of horrifying murder. The deaths piled up. 4 husbands died mysteriously and unexpectedly. Nanny also systematically eliminated family members she deemed burdensome, including her mother, her sister, a mother-in-law, and even her infant grandson. Each time, authorities ruled deaths accidental, blaming sudden illnesses and misfortune. Nanny played the grieving widow and mourning mother convincingly, evading suspicion time after time. Yet, her luck ran out in 1954, after husband Samuel Doss, a minister known for his frugal nature, fell suddenly ill and died following hospitalization. Suspicions finally arose. Samuel's autopsy uncovered lethal quantities of arsenic in his system, immediately alerting authorities to possible foul play. Police confronted Nanny, who unexpectedly broke into laughter during her interrogation, earning her the chilling nickname, the Giggling Granny. With unsettling calmness, Nanny confessed openly to multiple murders, recounting each in explicit, chilling detail, often punctuating her stories with casual chuckles. Authorities listened, horrified by her lighthearted demeanor as she detailed poisoning her loved ones simply because she felt they had become inconveniences. "Why did you kill them?" investigators asked. Stunned by her indifferent, smiling confession, Nanny replied cheerfully, "Because they annoyed me. They stood between me and happiness. So, I had to help them along to heaven." The utter absence of remorse in her voice left detectives stunned, reinforcing the chilling truth behind her grandmotherly facade. During her trial in May 1955, the courtroom was packed with spectators desperate to catch a glimpse of the now infamous smiling killer. Prosecutors presented the calculated coldness of her actions, emphasizing the cruel betrayal of familial trust. Throughout the trial, Nanny maintained an unsettling grin, smiling warmly at jurors and courtroom attendees as if oblivious to the gravity of her crimes. The most disturbing moment occurred when prosecutors asked her if she understood the magnitude of her crimes. With an eerie smile, she replied calmly, "I guess I was just searching for the perfect mate, the real romance of life." This chilling statement cemented her reputation as a woman completely detached from humanity's moral boundaries. Ultimately, Nanny Doss was sentenced to life imprisonment, narrowly escaping the electric chair due to her gender and the perception of the time. Behind bars, she lived quietly, continuing to smile unsettlingly until her death from leukemia on June 2, 1965, never once expressing regret for her actions. Today, Nanny Doss, the giggling granny, remains a haunting icon of American true crime history. A stark reminder that sometimes the warmest smiles mock the coldest hearts, and that evil can exist even within the comforting embrace of family. Case 4. Betty Lou Beets, Texas Black Widow. Betty Lou Beets, known notoriously as the Texas Black Widow, presented a stark contradiction between her diminutive, soft-spoken appearance and her gruesome hidden deeds. Born Betty Lou Dunavant on March 12, 1937 in Roxborough, North Carolina, her early life was filled with hardship, poverty, and repeated abuse. Her turbulent youth set the stage for a lifetime punctuated by failed relationships, personal turmoil, and eventually, cold-blooded murder. To outsiders in Henderson County, Texas, Betty was simply a petite, pleasant woman navigating the complexities of family life. Married multiple times, she often portrayed herself as a victim of unfortunate circumstances, behind closed doors. However, she crafted sinister plots fueled by her desire for financial gain and a desperate need to escape the perceived burdens of her husbands. Her descent into murder began decisively on August 6, 1983, when Betty's fifth husband, retired Dallas firefighter Jimmy Don Beets, mysteriously vanished without a trace. To concerned neighbors and relatives, Betty tearfully recounted how Jimmy Don had abandoned her, leaving abruptly after an argument. Local authorities initially believed the story after all. Couples argued frequently, and a sudden departure was not uncommon. In truth, the reality was far darker, driven by greed and desperation to obtain insurance payouts and Jimmy Don's pension. Betty Lou carefully orchestrated his murder on that fateful summer night. She coldly shot Jimmy Don twice in the head with a .38 caliber pistol, meticulously wrapping his lifeless body in a sleeping bag before burying him in a shallow grave in her backyard flower bed. To conceal evidence further, she enlisted her son, Robert Branson, deceiving him into assisting her with the grim burial, telling him she acted in self-defense. Jimmy Don, tragically, was not Betty's first victim. Authorities later uncovered evidence that another husband, Doyle Wayne Barker, had vanished mysteriously in 1981 under similar circumstances. Doyle, too, had been shot and buried on Betty's property, this time concealed beneath a backyard storage shed. Once again, Betty convincingly portrayed herself as an innocent victim abandoned by her spouse, thus initially evading suspicion. The carefully constructed facade of innocence began unraveling in 1985. Authorities, acting on a confidential tip, commenced a meticulous search of Betty's property. The search unveiled the grim truth beneath the flower beds and outbuildings lay the decomposed remains of both Jimmy Don Beets and Doyle Barker, wrapped in plastic. Their bodies hidden beneath the idyllic Texas landscape she meticulously maintained. Faced with overwhelming forensic evidence, Betty Lou was arrested and charged with murder. Her 1985 trial became a gripping drama as the prosecution unveiled the calculated coldness of her actions. Contrasting her frail appearance with the brutality of her crimes, Betty maintained a stoic, almost indifferent demeanor throughout, occasionally glancing impassively at the jury as shocking details emerged. In a particularly chilling courtroom moment, Prosecutors asked Betty directly if she regretted murdering her husband. Betty Lou, unmoved and defiant, simply replied, "I didn't murder anyone. It's all lies." Her insistence on innocence, despite explicit forensic proof, stunned jurors, making her cold detachment even more apparent. The prosecution asserted Betty's primary motive was clear: to gain access to her husband's financial assets, including his pension and insurance money. Her actions had been meticulously calculated and ruthlessly executed. They argued a woman willing to kill to secure her desired financial stability. The jury agreed. On October 11, 1985, Betty Lou Beets was convicted of capital murder in the death of Jimmy Don Beets and sentenced to death by lethal injection. She remained on Texas death row for nearly 15 years, continually insisting on her innocence despite clear evidence. On February 24, 2000, Betty Lou Beets faced execution by lethal injection, calm and composed until the end. Her final words were chillingly brief and defiant. When asked if she wished to make a last statement, Betty Lou shook her head slowly, looked straight ahead without emotion, and quietly replied, "No." Her execution attracted widespread media attention. Dividing public opinion, some saw her as a cold-hearted killer, others, a victim of her own traumatic past. Regardless, Betty Lou Beets' crimes remain stark reminders of the deadly potential lurking beneath seemingly benign appearances. To this day, the story of Betty Lou Beets, Texas's infamous Black Widow, remains hauntingly vivid, illustrating chillingly that danger and darkness can reside in the most unexpected of places, even behind the facade of a gentle, soft-spoken grandmother. Case 5. Blanche Taylor Moore, North Carolina poisoner. Blanche Taylor Moore appeared as the epitome of Southern charm, a devout churchgoer, friendly neighbor, and devoted wife. Born Blanche Kaiser on February 17, 1933 in Concord, North Carolina, she seemed like the last person capable of violent crimes. Beneath her gentle facade, however, lurked a ruthless killer whose secret weapon was her deceptive innocence and carefully disguised cruelty. Growing up in poverty and enduring a troubled childhood, Blanche sought refuge in her charismatic charm and appearance of sincerity. Neighbors and friends in her North Carolina community saw a compassionate woman known for her baking skills and commitment to her local church. Her outer life was characterized by genuine-seeming warmth. Her hidden life, however, was defined by calculated murder. Her murderous spree began subtly in 1973 with her first husband, James Taylor, a furniture salesman. James suddenly fell gravely ill, suffering severe nausea, abdominal pains, and deteriorating health over days. Doctors, puzzled by his rapid decline, failed to pinpoint the cause. Taylor died shortly after, with physicians attributing his passing to natural illness, never suspecting foul play. Blanche, displaying apparent grief, immediately collected life insurance benefits. But James Taylor was just the start of Blanche's dark path. Her subsequent victim, boyfriend Raymond Reed, met a similar grim fate in 1986. Reed's mysterious illness began quietly but escalated alarmingly, vomiting violently, losing weight rapidly, and experiencing excruciating abdominal pain. He endured months of agony before finally succumbing, once again. Doctors were mystified, concluding the cause of death as severe illness. Blanche, feigning sorrow, cashed in substantial insurance money, all while maintaining her serene, sorrowful image. However, Blanche became careless, emboldened by previous successes. In 1989, she married Reverend Dwight Moore, an admired local pastor. Mere weeks into their marriage, Reverend Moore fell inexplicably and dangerously ill, admitted to the hospital. He experienced relentless nausea, vomiting, severe abdominal pain, and near-fatal organ failure, suspecting poisoning. Doctors conducted urgent tests, discovering alarmingly high levels of arsenic enough to kill multiple people in Reverend Moore's system. This discovery prompted immediate police investigation. Detectives swiftly uncovered a chilling pattern. Every man Blanche had been romantically involved with suffered identical mysterious symptoms. Authorities exhumed the bodies of James Taylor and Raymond Reed, confirming both had died from massive arsenic poisoning. Detectives, shaken by the sinister pattern, quickly turned their attention to Blanche Moore, At first, Blanche steadfastly denied accusations, skillfully manipulating her soft-spoken charm to evade suspicion. But the accumulating forensic evidence became impossible to ignore. The once beloved figure of her community was revealed to be a calculating murderer hiding behind her carefully crafted persona. Her trial commenced in October 1990, gripping North Carolina as prosecutors revealed chilling details of Blanche's deadly methods. Courtroom attendees listened in stunned silence as forensic toxicologists detailed the sheer brutality of arsenic poisoning, painful, lingering, and agonizing deaths deliberately administered by Blanche's caring hands. But the most haunting courtroom moment came when prosecutors directly confronted Blanche about her motives. Calmly, she looked at the jurors and answered in a quiet, composed voice, "I love these men. Why would I harm anyone I loved?" Her chillingly indifferent denial left observers unsettled, as Blanche showed no remorse, no empathy, and no acknowledgement of her guilt. On November 14, 1990, after meticulous deliberation, the jury found Blanche Taylor Moore guilty of first-degree murder for Raymond Reed's death. She received the death penalty. Sentenced to execution by lethal injection, a verdict she accepted without visible emotion, maintaining her eerie composure to the end. Today, Blanche Taylor Moore resides on North Carolina's death row, now aged and largely forgotten, awaiting execution indefinitely. Her conviction remains particularly shocking because it exposed the deceptive power of a seemingly gentle persona and outwardly kind. Church-going woman capable of calculated, cold-hearted murder, known today as the North Carolina Poisoner. Blanche Moore serves as a grim reminder that evil can hide in plain sight. Thriving behind masks of kindness and sincerity, her case remains infamous not only for her calculated brutality, but also for her chilling ability to deceive everyone around her family, friends, and community until her sinister secret finally unraveled, shattering her carefully constructed image of innocence forever. Case 6. Audrey Marie Hilley, Alabama's deceptive poisoner. Audrey Marie Hilley was known to her Alabama community as a glamorous, sophisticated woman with impeccable style and a seemingly flawless family life. Born Audrey Marie Frazier on June 4, 1933 in Anniston, Alabama. She appeared to embody Southern elegance, effortlessly charming everyone she met, yet, beneath the perfect facade was a master manipulator, a woman who coldly poisoned her own family, hiding sinister motives behind a captivating smile. Audrey's early life was filled with aspirations of wealth, status, and comfort dreams deeply rooted in her modest upbringing. Marrying Frank Hilley, her high school sweetheart, she appeared initially to achieve those ambitions, settling into a comfortable life marked by social acceptance and middle-class stability. But Audrey's insatiable desire for more led her down a dark path paved with manipulation, deceit, and eventually murder. The first cracks in her carefully constructed image began to appear in 1975. Frank Hilley, her husband, inexplicably fell gravely ill, suffering severe nausea, abdominal pain, and rapid deterioration. Doctors, baffled by his sudden symptoms, initially diagnosed a mysterious viral illness. Despite medical intervention, Frank died quickly, leaving friends and family devastated. Audrey, seemingly grief-stricken, promptly collected substantial life insurance proceeds, swiftly rebuilding her affluent lifestyle. No suspicion arose, at least not yet. Emboldened by her initial success and driven by greed and financial ambition, Audrey soon turned her attention toward her daughter, Carol Hilley. In 1979, Carol began suffering unexplained illnesses, nausea, debilitating stomach cramps, numbness in limbs, and severe fatigue. Doctors initially struggled to diagnose the cause, attributing symptoms to an unknown chronic illness. But suspicions finally arose when nurses noticed Audrey obsessively overseeing Carol's food and medication. Carol narrowly survived, thanks to medical intervention and persistent suspicions by hospital staff. Tests eventually confirmed what no one wanted to believe: Carol had dangerously high levels of arsenic poisoning in her system, levels administered slowly and methodically over time. Investigators swiftly turned their focus toward Audrey Marie Hilley, who, sensing discovery, vanished abruptly, escaping custody in an audacious flight. Thus began one of the most surreal fugitive stories in Alabama's history. Audrey fled to Florida, adopting new identities with calculated precision. Under the alias Robbie Hannon, she successfully convinced new acquaintances that she was a wealthy widow, charming unsuspecting victims with ease. Later, adopting yet another identity, her fictitious twin sister, Terry Martin, she deceived even authorities, demonstrating her remarkable skill at psychological manipulation. But deception could only last so long. Audrey's elaborate web unraveled in January 1983 when authorities finally apprehended her in Vermont. Far from her Alabama roots, returned to Alabama. Audrey stood trial, accused of murder and attempted murder. Her calculated methods detailed thoroughly by prosecutors. Evidence revealed meticulous arsenic poisonings, carefully hidden in food, beverages, and medication, a chilling portrait of maternal betrayal. The most shocking moment of Audrey's trial occurred when prosecutors directly questioned her motives. Without a flicker of remorse, Audrey coldly insisted, "I would never harm my family. This is all a misunderstanding." Her unwavering composure and flat denial sent shivers through the courtroom, illustrating vividly her chillingly deceptive nature. In June 1983, Audrey Marie Hilley was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of her husband and attempted murder of her daughter, Carol. Despite compelling evidence and clear testimony, Audrey continued to insist on her innocence, skillfully portraying herself as a misunderstood victim. Yet, Audrey's story didn't end quietly. In February 1987, during a brief furlough from prison granted under controversial circumstances, she fled yet again, initiating another sensational manhunt. Tragically, her escape was short-lived. On February 26, 1987, Audrey was discovered barely alive, suffering severe hypothermia after spending 4 days hiding in freezing Alabama woods, desperately attempting to evade recapture. She died shortly after reaching the hospital, never admitting guilt, never apologizing to the family she betrayed. Today, the case of Audrey Marie Hilley remains infamous not only for her methodical poisonings, but also for her remarkable, chilling ability to deceive and manipulate. Known as Alabama's deceptive poisoner, her crimes serve as stark reminders that evil can flourish behind beauty, charm, and social grace, hiding dangerously within those we trust most. Case 7. Velma Barfield, Death Row Granny. Velma Barfield seemed like the quintessential kindly grandmother, soft-spoken, religiously devout, and beloved by her North Carolina community. Born Margie Velma Bullard on October 29, 1932 in rural South Carolina, Velma grew up amid poverty and turmoil, enduring childhood abuse and instability. Outwardly, she projected unwavering faith and gentle compassion. Yet beneath this wholesome appearance lurked a cold-blooded serial poisoner whose cruelty would shock America. Throughout much of her adult life, Velma struggled with financial instability, depression, and an escalating addiction to prescription medications. Her dependence on drugs, coupled with intense financial pressures and deep-seated resentments, became a lethal combination, eventually compelling her toward calculated murder. Velma's first confirmed victim was her own husband, Thomas Burke, who died mysteriously in 1969 after experiencing violent gastrointestinal symptoms. Authorities initially attributed his death to natural causes, and Velma was perceived merely as a grieving widow, quietly mourning her loss. Behind her tears, however, she concealed a sinister secret. She had carefully administered rat poison, slowly poisoning Thomas until he succumbed, with one murder successfully disguised. Velma repeated her sinister methods. In 1971, her second husband, Jennings Barfield, suddenly fell ill with similar symptoms, agonizing stomach pains, persistent vomiting, and severe diarrhea within days. He died under circumstances eerily reminiscent of her first husband's demise. Once again, Velma convincingly played the devastated spouse, drawing sympathy from neighbors and family alike. Driven by escalating desperation and greed, Velma turned her deadly attention toward elderly individuals under her care. Acting as a caretaker, she poisoned 3 additional victims: her own mother, Lily Bullard, and 2 elderly individuals she cared for, Dolly Edwards and John Henry Lee. Each death was excruciating and prolonged, caused by rat poison discreetly mixed into their food and beverages. For years, Velma's secret went undetected, concealed by her deceptively warm personality and believable grief. However, her luck dramatically changed in 1978 when her fiancé, Stuart Taylor, inexplicably fell gravely ill and died. Unlike previous victims, Taylor's family insisted upon an autopsy. The chilling results shocked authorities. Lethal levels of arsenic, a poison causing a slow, agonizing death, were discovered in Taylor's system. Confronted with undeniable evidence, detectives arrested Velma Barfield, unraveling her meticulously hidden pattern of murder during her highly publicized trial later that year. Prosecutors meticulously detailed Velma's chilling modus operandi. Jurors listened aghast as forensic experts described the torturous effects of arsenic poisoning, agonizing abdominal cramps, relentless nausea, and ultimately death. Throughout these horrifying descriptions, Velma sat impassively, often clutching a worn Bible, maintaining her serene, grandmotherly appearance. The courtroom reached its haunting climax when prosecutors asked Velma directly why she committed such heinous acts against people she claimed to care for. With a voice devoid of emotion, Velma chillingly replied, "I only wanted them to sleep, to rest. They were suffering, so I helped them along." The eerie calmness and detachment of her statement reverberated through the courtroom, horrifying spectators and jurors alike. In December 1978, after swift deliberation, Velma Barfield was found guilty of first-degree murder for the poisoning death of Stuart Taylor. Sentenced to death by lethal injection, Velma became a historical figure, the first woman scheduled for execution since the reinstatement of the death penalty in the United States, in prison. Velma embraced religion publicly, receiving visits from noted evangelists and becoming a controversial figure, symbolizing redemption for some, unremorseful evil for others. Yet, despite numerous appeals, her sentence stood firm. On November 2, 1984, Velma Barfield, dubbed by media as the Death Row Granny, entered North Carolina's execution chamber calmly. When asked if she had final words, she offered a quiet, composed apology. "I'm sorry for any hurt I've caused. I know everyone has suffered greatly. Please forgive me." Moments later, lethal chemicals entered her bloodstream. Ending her life and marking a chilling milestone, Velma Barfield was the first woman executed by lethal injection in U.S. history. Today, Velma Barfield's case remains notorious for its stark contrasts: the grandmotherly facade versus ruthless murderer, compassionate caregiver versus cold-blooded poisoner. Her disturbing legacy serves as a chilling testament to how convincingly evil can mask itself behind kindness, religious devotion, and the gentle smiles of a seemingly harmless grandmother. Case 8. Cynthia Summer, California's poisonous housewife. Cynthia Summer seemed to embody the carefree California lifestyle, vivacious, attractive, and full of life. Born Cynthia McDowell on March 18, 1973, Cynthia eventually married Todd Summer, a respected United States Marine stationed in California, to friends and neighbors. The couple appeared happy and devoted, a picture-perfect military family enjoying life's pleasures. However, behind her cheerful demeanor and charming personality, suspicion later arose, casting Cynthia into a haunting spotlight of controversy and accusation. On February 18, 2002, Todd Summer, healthy and fit at just 23 years old, unexpectedly collapsed at home in San Diego, rushed to the hospital. Todd's condition rapidly deteriorated. Medical teams battled desperately, but could not save his life. Todd died shortly after arrival, leaving doctors perplexed by the sudden and inexplicable death. Initially, medical authorities attributed Todd's tragic passing to natural cardiac arrhythmia, and Cynthia, seemingly devastated, began rebuilding her life. However, doubts soon emerged among Todd's family members and close friends, who observed Cynthia's behavior following her husband's death as unusually extravagant and carefree. She spent lavishly, purchasing luxury items and opting for cosmetic surgeries, all funded by Todd's significant military life insurance payout. Concerned, Family members urged authorities to reopen investigations. Under mounting pressure, medical examiners ordered additional testing on Todd's preserved tissues. In November 2005, investigators announced shocking results: high levels of arsenic, a deadly poison, appeared in Todd's liver samples. The new forensic finding instantly cast suspicion on Cynthia Summer, pointing toward murder by poisoning. San Diego authorities swiftly arrested Cynthia, accusing her of poisoning her husband with arsenic to claim his $250,000 life insurance policy. Cynthia, in shock, adamantly proclaimed her innocence. Yet, the case rapidly drew national media attention. Captivated by the paradox of the vibrant, carefree widow accused of meticulously planned murder, her sensational trial commenced in January 2007. Prosecutors painted Cynthia as a woman driven purely by greed, coldly poisoning Todd to secure financial freedom and indulge a lavish lifestyle. The courtroom watched intently as prosecutors introduced Cynthia's suspicious behaviors after Todd's death: excessive spending, luxury vacations, and cosmetic procedures. This portrayal sharply contrasted Cynthia's public image as a grieving widow, raising troubling questions about her true intentions. However, the case encountered a stunning twist. Cynthia's defense team meticulously challenged forensic procedures used to detect arsenic, arguing the evidence was compromised, improperly handled, and scientifically unreliable. Defense experts raised significant doubts, asserting arsenic levels might have been contamination during testing rather than deliberate poisoning. Despite vigorous defense arguments, the jury initially believed prosecutors. On January 30th, 2007, Cynthia Summer was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Cynthia listened stoically, shaking her head slowly in disbelief as jurors rendered their guilty verdict. Asked later by media if she felt remorse or guilt, she replied firmly and unemotionally, "I didn't poison Todd. I loved him. I would never hurt him." Yet Cynthia's conviction marked not the end, but a turning point. Shortly afterward, her defense attorneys uncovered substantial flaws and questionable scientific methodology in forensic testing used against her. Arguing vehemently that contamination led to false positive arsenic results, Cynthia's defense requested retesting and review. Shockingly, independent retesting in April 2008 conclusively found no arsenic at all, completely exonerating Cynthia from accusations of poisoning, in an unprecedented reversal. Prosecutors were forced to acknowledge flawed evidence, leading to Cynthia's immediate release from prison after over 2 years behind bars. The case became notorious nationwide for its dramatic legal reversal, highlighting dangerous pitfalls within the criminal justice system. Upon release, Cynthia maintained her stance calmly, stating simply, "My name is cleared, I'm innocent, but my life has been forever changed." Yet, despite her eventual exoneration, many continued viewing her suspiciously, haunted by lingering questions surrounding her actions after Todd's death. Today, Cynthia Summer's controversial case serves as a chilling reminder of the complex interplay between appearances, perception, and truth within the justice system. Known notoriously as California's poisonous housewife, Cynthia represents a unique figure among America's notorious poisoning cases, one shrouded in ambiguity, suspicion, and profound legal uncertainty. You've just uncovered 8 chilling cases of seemingly ordinary housewives who secretly used poison to take the lives of their loved ones: Stacey Castor, Judy Buenoano, Nanny Doss, Betty Lou Beets, Blanche Taylor Moore, Audrey Marie Hilley, Velma Barfield, and Cynthia Summer, women trusted by their families, yet silently plotting betrayal behind warm smiles. But tell us, which poisonous housewife left you feeling most disturbed? Let us know in the comments below. And for more gripping true crime stories, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Remember, the darkest dangers often hide behind the sweetest smiles.